If you saw the Epstein headlines today and thought, wait, why is Michael Jackson in this? You're not crazy. The internet is doing what it always does. It sees a name, sees a photo, and fills in the worst story it can imagine. One photo, one headline, and suddenly Michael Jackson is being talked about like he's part of something dark all over again. But here's the part nobody's saying out loud. Being in Epstein's files doesn't mean guilt. It means your name was useful to a narrative, and Michael Jackson is the most profitable name to drag through dirt because he's not here to fight back. So in this video, I'm going to break down what those photos really are, where they were taken, what the documents actually say, and why this story is being framed in the most misleading way possible. The Epstein Files Bombshell. Over the last few days, a new batch of documents tied to Jeffrey Epstein was unsealed and pushed into the public, and the internet reacted exactly the way it always does. People didn't read the documents, they scanned for famous names. Once those names appeared, the narrative wrote itself. Old photos, contact lists, and mentions that had existed for years were suddenly framed as shocking new revelations. No new crimes, no new evidence, just recycled material presented like breaking news. Some outlets handled it carefully, but many didn't. Headlines started implying guilt without ever saying it directly. And once Michael Jackson's photo appeared next to Epstein's, most people stopped thinking past that point. Here's what almost nobody explains clearly. Being mentioned in Epstein's files does not mean someone committed a crime, or even that they were involved in Epstein's operation.
Now tonight we are seeing new images of high-profile celebrities in the documents without any context.
These documents include hundreds of names from politicians to celebrities to business figures, many of whom were never accused, charged, or even questioned. Even mainstream outlets like CNN and TMZ have admitted that appearing in the files does not equal wrongdoing, but that part rarely makes the headline. Once a photo is attached, context disappears. A picture turns into a suggestion, the suggestion turns into suspicion, and suspicion turns into public judgment. That's the environment Michael Jackson's name was dropped into, not because of new facts or new accusations, but because his name still carries controversy, emotion, and clicks. Look at the photos that started spreading everywhere. One shows Michael Jackson on an airplane with Bill Clinton and Diana Ross, with children's faces blurred out. Another image shows Michael standing next to Jeffrey Epstein himself. And the moment those images hit the internet, it was like gasoline on a fire. Headlines started screaming Michael Jackson and Epstein files, and people immediately jumped to the worst conclusions. Was Michael part of Epstein's inner circle? Did he go to the island? Calm down. Before anyone spirals into conspiracy mode, here's the key fact that keeps getting ignored. Being photographed or mentioned in Epstein's files does not mean someone did anything wrong. What you're seeing instead is manipulation through presentation. The airplane photo isn't new. It's been public for years and was published by Getty long before this Epstein file release. That image was taken at a Democratic fundraiser where Michael performed. The children whose faces are now blurred aren't mysterious figures or alleged victims. They are Michael's own kids, Prince and Paris, along with Diana Ross's child. But when the faces are blacked out and the photo is dropped into Epstein coverage without context, it quietly pushes people toward a dark assumption without ever stating one outright. See, this is how media manipulate people. A house-hunting king of pop. Here's the part that keeps getting exaggerated online, so let's slow it down. As far as anyone can confirm, Michael Jackson and Jeffrey Epstein crossed paths one time. And no, it wasn't some secret meeting or hidden relationship. It was real estate.
The release also includes a photo of Epstein with Michael Jackson.
Early 2000s, Michael's life was chaotic, and we'll get into why later, but at that point, he was seriously looking at relocating. Palm Beach, Florida caught his attention. Private, luxurious, and full of massive estates. In 2003, Michael was flying into South Florida, touring properties and exploring his options. His real estate broker even confirmed that Michael viewed a huge Palm Beach mansion priced around $45 million. Now here's where Epstein comes into the picture. Epstein owned a large home in Palm Beach, and at the time, he was publicly known as just another ultra-wealthy financier who associated with powerful people. His crimes weren't exposed yet. During Michael's house hunting trip, Epstein's property was shown to him, or Michael stopped by Epstein's home as part of that circle of wealthy homeowners and advisors. Think about it realistically. You're Michael Jackson looking at high-end properties, meeting rich people, networking. You walk into a big Palm Beach estate, shake hands, look around, maybe talk money. Cameras flash, a photo gets taken, and that's the moment people are obsessing over now. That's it. One visit. Michael didn't buy the house. He didn't move to Palm Beach. He didn't start hanging out with Epstein. He attended a Palm Beach film event during the same period and then went back to his life. No ongoing contact, no friendship, no pattern, just a brief encounter during a property search. And if that sounds boring, that's because it is. But what happened during that visit matters, and we don't have to guess. There's actual testimony from someone who was there, and that's where things get very clear. Witness account. Nothing happened. So how do we actually know nothing shady happened when Michael met Epstein? Simple. Michael isn't here to speak for himself, but someone else already did. Someone who was inside that house that day. Her name is Johanna Sjoberg, and she was one of Epstein's victims in the early 2000s. In newly unsealed court documents from a 2015 case, she gave sworn testimony about the people she saw around Epstein. And yes, she mentioned Michael Jackson. She confirmed that she met Michael at Epstein's Palm Beach home. That alone made headlines. But what didn't make headlines is what she said next. Under oath, she was directly asked whether anything inappropriate happened between her and Michael. She was even asked if she was told to give him a massage, which sadly was part of Epstein's pattern with other men. Her answer was clear and direct. No, she did not. She did not accuse Michael of anything illegal, inappropriate, or questionable. Nothing happened. According to her own testimony, Michael showed up, probably checked out the house, and left. Johanna's testimony completely clears Michael of any wrongdoing during that visit. He basically comes off as just another guest who didn't partake in Epstein's sick world at all. This is huge, because it's straight from an Epstein victim's mouth. And this matters, because it's not coming from a fan, a publicist, or a defense team. It's coming from an Epstein victim speaking under oath. That alone should shut down a lot of the noise. You can almost feel the rumors deflate once you hear that part. But of course, facts move slower than outrage. By the time this testimony resurfaced, social media had already decided its version of the story. People saw Michael Jackson and Epstein in the same sentence and filled in the blanks themselves.
And how many people were harmed after that date? It just, we've been saying it over and over, but to see it in black and white that way has been very emotional.
And that's exactly how misinformation spreads. But once you accept this testimony for what it is, the real question becomes obvious. If nothing happened and there was no accusation, why are people still pushing darker claims? That's where the most ridiculous rumor of all comes in, and we need to shut that down next. No, Michael Jackson didn't go to Epstein's island. Now let's deal with the biggest rumor people keep pushing, the island, because this is where logic completely disappears. Michael Jackson did not go to Epstein's island. Not once, not secretly, not ever. And this is an opinion, it's documented fact. Epstein's island, Little St. James, was visited by several powerful and famous people over the years, and those visits left paper trails, flight logs, pilot records, witness statements. That's how we know when people like Bill Clinton, Prince Andrew, and others traveled with Epstein.
But the images released by the Department of Justice lack context. A spokesperson for Clinton criticized the release, writing,
"Their names appear clearly in those records. Michael Jackson's name does not. Anywhere. Not on flight manifests. Not in pilot testimony. Not in visitor lists. If Michael had ever stepped onto Epstein's private jet or island, it would have been exposed instantly, especially during the years when the media was actively trying to destroy him. But there is zero evidence. The photo people are spreading right now wasn't taken on the island. It wasn't taken during some hidden trip. It was taken at Epstein's Palm Beach home during a daytime visit, the same single visit we already talked about. But once people see the word Epstein, their brain jumps straight to the island, even when the facts don't support it. That's how conspiracy thinking works. A famous name appears and people start connecting imaginary dots. And let's be honest, if you wanted to smear someone permanently, tying them to Epstein's island would be the fastest way to do it. But tying Michael Jackson to Epstein's crimes is pure fiction. It's not just wrong, it's reckless. Michael had enough real struggles in his life. He doesn't need fake ones added after his death. So once you strip away the island fantasy, the question becomes much simpler and much more grounded. If Michael only met Epstein once and nothing happened, why did he meet him at all? That's where money enters the picture, and that's where things finally make sense. Financial advice from a financier. To understand why Michael Jackson ever crossed paths with Jeffrey Epstein, you have to look at where Michael's life actually was in the early 2000s. And the honest word for it is chaos. By around 2003 to 2005, Michael was under serious financial pressure. He had already paid a massive settlement in the 1990s, then came the extremely expensive 2005 trial, while Neverland Ranch was costing a fortune just to keep running. On top of that, huge loans were coming due, and he was locked in ugly disputes over his music catalog and contracts, especially with Sony. He felt betrayed by the industry, surrounded by lawsuits from former managers and employees, and constantly bleeding money. So imagine this for a second. You're one of the most famous people on the planet, but behind the scenes, everything is slipping. When people at that level get desperate, they don't walk into a bank like normal people. They look for fixers, people who claim they can quietly solve problems. That's where Epstein comes in. At that time, Epstein was publicly known as a wealthy financier who moved around celebrities, billionaires, and politicians. His crimes were not exposed yet. To Michael or his advisors, Epstein likely looked like just another rich guy with connections who talked big about money, assets, and real estate. That's not shocking, it's common at that level. Michael was talking to anyone who might help stabilize his situation, and Epstein was just one name in that mix. And this part matters. Sources close to Michael have said the contact was strictly professional and extremely limited. No friendship, no pattern, no ongoing relationship. Most likely they met once, talked money and property, maybe Epstein pitched an idea, and that was it. Michael never hired him, never handed over control of his finances, and never formed any kind of partnership. And the fact that Michael's financial problems continued until his death makes one thing clear. Epstein didn't help. So when people ask, why would Michael Jackson ever meet Jeffrey Epstein? The answer isn't dark or dramatic. It's boring. Money and real estate. A man under pressure trying to stop a sinking ship. Looking back, it doesn't age well. But at the time, Michael wasn't meeting a known criminal. He was meeting someone who presented himself as a financial fixer. And that context matters, no matter how much the media wants to ignore it. When it comes to Michael Jackson, bad news spreads instantly, while corrections barely travel at all. His name still carries attention, controversy, and clicks. Media outlets know that linking Michael Jackson to any scandal guarantees engagement, even if the connection is weak or non-existent. Pair his name with Epstein, strip away context, blur some faces, and let the audience's imagination do the rest. And here's the part that should bother anyone who cares about truth. Epstein's crimes are horrific on their own. They don't need help. Yet Michael's name is being dragged into that story anyway, not because of evidence, but because it makes the narrative louder. A dead man can't respond. He can't sue. He can't defend himself. That makes him an easy target. But when you step back and look at the actual facts, the picture changes. One meeting, no accusations, no island trips, no flight logs, a witness who said nothing inappropriate happened, context that explains why the meeting occurred at all. This is the part most headlines don't want to emphasize because it's not dramatic enough. And that's why this matters. Not just for Michael Jackson fans, but for anyone who understands how reputations get rewritten. His legacy is already complicated and heavily scrutinized. It doesn't deserve to be distorted further by guilt by association narratives that collapse the moment you apply facts. This case isn't about uncovering some hidden truth. It's about recognizing a familiar media pattern and choosing not to fall for it again. Michael Jackson's name showing up in Epstein coverage is irresistible clickbait if you're willing to ignore context. And once you remove context, guilt by association does the rest of the work for you. A blurred photo, a loaded headline, and suddenly people feel justified jumping to conclusions without stopping to ask a single serious question. This is how reputations get quietly rewritten. Not with proof, but with implication. And Michael has lived inside that cycle for most of his life. Endless scrutiny, lawsuits, tabloids, opportunists. And now, even after his death, his name is still being used to make other stories louder. A man who isn't here to respond becomes the safest target of all.